The silver ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, its hull glowing faintly as it cut through the clouds. Inside, 12 alien students pressed against the viewports, their various appendages and sensory organs focused on the blue-green planet below. Ambassador Zixlari, a tall, slender being with iridescent skin that rippled with colors, stood at the center of the command deck. As the representative of the Luminar species and coordinator of the Galactic Exchange Program, this mission was his responsibility. Remember, Zixlari said, his voice a melodic hum, that the ship's systems translated for each species. Earth is classified as a Class 9 Deathworld. We are here to learn, not to judge, and certainly not to endanger ourselves. The ship landed on a flat concrete area outside a large white building nestled in the Colorado mountains. A small group of humans waited nearby, standing straight despite the planet's crushing gravity. Dr. Alan Carter stepped forward as the ship's ramp extended. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair and a friendly smile. Beside him stood Lieutenant Kate Monroe, her military posture and alert eyes scanning the alien visitors. "Welcome to Earth," Dr. Carter said, raising his hand in greeting. "We're honored to be part of the Galactic Exchange Program." Zixlari descended the ramp, his body adjusting to Earth's gravity with each careful step. "The honor is ours, Dr. Carter. We bring 12 students from across the galaxy, each eager to learn about your world." The students followed, each moving according to their physiology. Nyx, a spherical being covered in fine cilia, floated down using his internal gas bladders. Grax, a 4-armed reptilian, lumbered heavily, struggling with the gravity. Prill, a delicate creature with gossamer wings and crystalline skin, needed assistance from 2 others. Lieutenant Monroe stepped forward. "We've prepared environmental suits for those who might need help with our atmosphere or gravity." A student named Loom, whose body resembled a collection of transparent tubes filled with flowing liquid, accepted a suit gratefully. "Your oxygen levels are quite high for most galactic standards," Loom said through the translator. "Almost toxic to some." Dr. Carter nodded. "Yes, Earth's environment is quite extreme by galactic measures. That's part of what you're here to study." The group moved toward the building, which displayed a sign reading International Exchange Facility. Inside, the temperature and lighting adjusted automatically to accommodate the visitors. "We've prepared living quarters for each of your specific needs," Dr. Carter explained. "Tomorrow we'll begin orientation and classes on Earth's basic planetary science." Morg, a heavily armored being with multiple eyes, raised a limb. "Is it true humans consume other living organisms for energy?" Lieutenant Monroe smiled. "Yes, we call it eating. We've prepared appropriate nutrient solutions for each of your species. We don't expect you to try our food, though some might be safe for your consumption," Dr. Carter added. "Part of cultural exchange is experiencing new things when possible." Later, after the humans had left them to rest, the alien students gathered in a common area to discuss their first impressions. "The gravity is worse than I expected," said Grax, his scales dulled from exertion. "It's the atmospheric composition that worries me," Prill whispered, her crystalline form vibrating slightly. "The nitrogen-oxygen mix feels corrosive." Zixlari entered the room, his skin now pulsing with calming blue patterns. "Remember why we're here. Earth is classified as a death world, yet humans have not only survived but built civilizations. Our mission is to understand how." "They seem so fragile," Nyx observed, bobbing slightly in the air. "No protective exoskeletons, no redundant organs, no energy fields. Yet they thrive on this dangerous planet," Zixlari replied. "Tomorrow we begin to learn how they managed this remarkable feat." Outside the facility windows, lightning flashed across the darkening sky. A storm was moving in from the mountains, the first of many challenges the alien visitors would face on this strange, beautiful, deadly world. Morning came with bright sunlight streaming through specially designed windows. The alien students gathered in a large classroom where 2 humans waited for them. Paul Garcia was a young man with dark hair and an energetic smile. Beside him stood Lisa Mitchell, a woman with short blonde hair and patient eyes. "Welcome to Earth Sciences 101, Paul said, activating a large screen behind him. "Today we'll cover the basics of our planet." The aliens settled into seats adjusted for their various body types. Prill, the delicate crystalline being, sat near an air filter that removed most of the oxygen from her breathing space. Lisa began the presentation. Earth is the third planet from our Sun. Our average surface temperature ranges from -40 to +50 degrees Celsius depending on location and season. Several of the alien students shifted uncomfortably. For many of their homeworlds, such temperature variations would be catastrophic. Our atmosphere is approximately 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen, Paul continued. The remaining 1% includes argon, carbon dioxide, and water vapor. Prill raised a crystalline appendage. "Excuse me, but oxygen at 21% is considered highly combustible by galactic standards. How do you prevent regular fire incidents?" Paul and Lisa exchanged glances. "Well," Paul said, "we do have fires. About 1.3 million fires are reported annually in the United States alone." The room fell silent as the aliens processed this information. "Moving on," Lisa said, changing the display to show Earth's geological features. "Our planet has an active molten core that creates a magnetic field protecting us from solar radiation. It also causes tectonic activity," Paul added. "The Earth's crust is divided into plates that move constantly." Grax, the reptilian student, leaned forward. "Move? You mean your ground moves?" "Yes," Lisa nodded. "This creates earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and over millions of years, mountain formation." Morg's multiple eyes blinked rapidly. "Your world regularly experiences ground ruptures and molten rock explosions, yet you build permanent structures." "We've adapted our buildings to withstand most seismic activity," Paul explained, showing diagrams of earthquake-resistant structures. The morning continued with explanations of Earth's water cycle, weather patterns, and seasonal changes. Each new topic seemed to shock the alien students more than the last. After a break for nutrient consumption, they moved to the subject of Earth's gravity. "Earth's gravity is approximately 9.8 meters per second squared," Lisa explained, "which we understand is 1.3 to 2.5 times stronger than most inhabited worlds in the exchange program," Paul added. Loom, the fluid-filled tubular being, rippled with anxiety. "This explains why movement feels so difficult here. How do humans develop without gravity damage?" "Our bodies evolved under these conditions," Lisa said. "Our muscles and bones developed to withstand this gravity." As the class continued, Prill began to show signs of distress. Her crystalline form vibrated, and the colors within her structure dulled. "Are you well, Student Prill?" Ambassador Zixleri asked, his skin pulsing with concern. "The oxygen, even with the filter, it's starting to affect me," Prill whispered. Paul quickly activated an emergency protocol. A clear bubble formed around Prill, filling with her native atmosphere. Her colors gradually brightened as she stabilized. "I apologize," Prill said once she recovered. "I didn't realize how quickly oxygen could corrode my outer layers." Lisa looked concerned. "Perhaps we should adjust your protective measures for future classes." From the back of the room, Ambassador Zixleri observed with growing understanding. "These are merely the environmental challenges of Earth," he said to the class. "We haven't even discussed the biological factors yet." The alien students looked at each other with newfound respect for the humans who called this dangerous world home. If these were just the basic planetary conditions, what other threats awaited them in their studies? "Tomorrow," Paul said as the class ended, "we'll discuss Earth's biological diversity, including our planet's history of predator-prey relationships." The room fell silent once more. No one needed a translator to understand that tomorrow's lesson would reveal even more reasons why Earth had earned its classification as a death world. After a week of classroom learning, the exchange program coordinators decided it was time for the alien students to experience Earth directly. A field trip to the Rocky Mountains was arranged, with human guides Greg Wilson and Diane Roberts leading the expedition. "We'll be camping overnight," Greg explained as they loaded equipment onto two large vehicles. He was tall with a red beard and weathered skin from years outdoors. Nothing too extreme. Just a taste of Earth's wilderness. The aliens wore their customized environmental suits. Some required more protection than others. Prill's suit now completely sealed her crystalline body from Earth's corrosive oxygen. Nick's had gravity compensators to help his spherical form move across the uneven ground. "What is camping?" asked Loom, his tubular body swaying slightly. "It means sleeping outside in temporary shelters," Diane said. She had dark hair pulled back in a practical braid and moved with confident grace. "Humans do it for fun." "For fun," Grax repeated, his reptilian features showing confusion. "You deliberately leave your secure structures to sleep exposed to the elements." Greg laughed. "Exactly. Nothing like fresh air and a campfire to connect with nature." The drive into the mountains took 2 hours. The aliens watched through the windows as the landscape changed. Trees grew thicker, the road narrowed and wound upward, and snow appeared on distant peaks despite the summer season. They stopped at a clearing near a small lake. While the humans efficiently set up tents, the alien students explored the area under supervision. Morg examined a flowering plant, his multiple eyes focusing on different parts simultaneously. "This simple organism has defense mechanisms," he noted, pointing to tiny thorns. "Those are rose thorns," Diane explained. "Many plants here have evolved protection against being eaten." After the camp was established, Greg led the group on a hike along a mountain trail. He pointed out various plants and small animals, explaining how each had adapted to survive in this environment. "Even your smallest life forms compete fiercely," Ambassador Zixleri observed, his skin shifting to thoughtful purple hues. The afternoon passed pleasantly. Some aliens tried fishing in the lake, marveling at the concept of catching food rather than producing it synthetically. Others collected rock samples or recorded the calls of birds. Then dark clouds gathered suddenly over the mountains. "Weather's changing," Greg said, looking up. "We should head back to camp." "Is there danger?" asked Nix, floating nervously. "Just a summer storm," Diane said. "But mountain weather can turn quickly." They hurried back toward camp as the first raindrops fell. The water sizzled slightly on Loom's protective covering. Wind whipped through the trees, bending them at alarming angles. As they rounded a bend in the trail, the group froze. Standing in their path was a large brown bear with 2 cubs. The aliens went completely still, their various sensory organs registering the massive Earth predator. The bear rose on its hind legs, sniffing the air, confused by the mix of human and alien scents. "Nobody move," Greg whispered, slowly reaching into his pocket. "She's just protecting her cubs." The bear dropped to all fours and took a step toward them. Several aliens began to tremble visibly. Greg carefully removed a small canister from his pocket. "When I say run, everyone move back down the trail slowly. No sudden movements." The bear huffed, pawing the ground. "Now," Greg said calmly. As the group began to retreat, he sprayed a cloud between them and the bear. The animal shook its head, surprised by the irritating capsaicin in the bear spray, then turned and led her cubs into the forest. Back at camp, huddled under waterproof coverings as rain drummed against them, the aliens were unusually quiet. "You handled that animal with no weapons," Grax finally said to Greg. "On my world, such a predator would require armed response." Greg shrugged. "Understanding behavior is better than force. That bear wasn't evil, just a mother protecting her young." "Yet you live knowing such encounters are possible," Morg asked. "That's what makes it an adventure," Diane smiled, stirring a pot of food cooking over their sheltered camp stove. That night, as some aliens rested and others kept watch according to their species' needs, they began to understand something new about humans. It wasn't just that humans survived on this dangerous world. They embraced its unpredictability. The next phase of the exchange program took the aliens to Chicago. After the wilderness experience, program organizers wanted to show how humans thrived in urban environments. Officer Samantha Dias, a police officer with a warm smile and sharp eyes, met them at the city limits. "Welcome to Chicago," she said as their transport vehicle entered the city. Home to nearly 3 million humans in the city proper and almost 10 million in the greater metropolitan area. The aliens pressed against windows, observing the towering buildings, crowded streets, and constant movement. Even with their protective gear, many found the sensory input overwhelming. "So many humans in such proximity," Zixlary commented, his skin rippling with surprised yellow patterns. "How do you maintain order?" "Rules, laws, cooperation, and a dash of chaos," Samantha replied with a laugh. "It's not perfect, but it works most days." Their first stop was a busy shopping mall. The aliens stayed close together as they entered the massive structure filled with hundreds of humans moving in seemingly random patterns. "This is frightening," Prill whispered from inside her protective suit. "So much movement, so little organization." "Actually, there are patterns," Samantha explained. "Watch how people navigate around each other, rarely colliding despite the crowds." Nix, floating slightly above the others, observed intently. "They make micro-adjustments to their paths without conscious communication. Fascinating adaptive behavior." The group visited various stores, learning about human commerce. They rode escalators, experienced elevator transportation, and observed humans eating in the food court. "You consume nutrients in public view of others?" Grax asked, clearly disturbed by the concept. "Eating is often social for humans," Samantha explained. "We enjoy sharing meals." After the mall, they boarded a city bus to experience public transportation. The vehicle was crowded, forcing the aliens to stand close to strangers. Many humans barely glanced at the obviously non-human visitors, too absorbed in their personal devices or thoughts. "Your species shows remarkable disinterest in potential threats," Morg observed, his multiple eyes scanning the bus passengers. "On my world, we would be constantly assessing each other for danger." "Oh, we're assessing," Samantha said quietly. "Humans are always subconsciously evaluating their surroundings. We just hide it better than most species." As if proving her point, the bus suddenly braked hard. Before any of the aliens could react, the humans on the bus had already braced themselves, some extending arms to steady others. The aliens tumbled into each other, unprepared for the sudden stop. Outside the bus window, they saw the cause: a minor traffic accident between two vehicles at an intersection. No one appeared hurt, but the drivers had already exited their vehicles, exchanging information. "That was incredibly rapid response," said Loom, his fluid-filled tubes still wobbling from the bus's stop. "Just reflexes," Samantha shrugged. "When you live in a world where things can change in an instant, you develop quick reactions." The bus continued its route, and later that afternoon, the group walked through a city park. The contrast between concrete structures and cultivated nature fascinated the aliens. "You create artificial wilderness within your urban environments," Zixlary noted. "Why?" "Humans need connection to growing things," Samantha explained. "It's good for our mental health." As they walked, a nearby child's ball bounced toward them. Morg automatically moved to intercept it with surprising speed. "Good catch," Samantha said as a small girl ran up, stopping a safe distance from the alien group. "Thank you, space person," the child said to Morg, showing no fear of his armored exoskeleton or multiple eyes. After returning the ball, Morg rejoined the group. "The young human showed no fear response to my appearance," he said, clearly puzzled. "Children adapt quickly," Samantha explained, and her parents probably told her about the exchange program. As evening approached and city lights began to illuminate the darkening sky, the aliens noticed how the human population adapted to the changing conditions, their movements and behaviors shifting subtly with the onset of night. "I'm beginning to understand," Larry said quietly to Officer Dias. Your species doesn't just survive here. You've built your civilization by constantly adapting to ever-changing threats. Your urban environment is as unpredictable as your wilderness, just in different ways. Samantha nodded. Life on Earth has always been adapt or die. We've gotten pretty good at adapting. After their urban experience, the exchange program scheduled a visit to a medical research facility. The aliens were eager to learn about human biology and how it compared to their own species. Dr. Ryan Maxwell greeted them at the entrance, his white lab coat crisp and his eyes bright with scientific curiosity. Welcome to the National Biomedical Research Center, he said, leading them through security. Today we'll show you how humans study disease, develop treatments, and adapt to biological challenges. The aliens followed Dr. Maxwell through sliding glass doors into a large laboratory. Scientists in protective gear worked at various stations, examining samples through microscopes or monitoring test results on screens. Humans are constantly under attack from microscopic organisms, Dr. Maxwell explained, showing images of bacteria and viruses on a large display. Our bodies fight an endless war against pathogens that evolve as quickly as we develop defenses. Tix, a crystalline student whose body resembled polished quartz with inner light patterns, moved closer to examine the images. You share your world with these invisible predators. How do you survive? We've evolved complex immune systems, Dr. Maxwell said, and we develop medicines to help fight infections we can't handle naturally. The tour continued to a room with medical equipment. Dr. Maxwell demonstrated various scanners, monitoring devices, and surgical tools. Your medical technology is designed for emergency repair, observed Morg, his multiple eyes taking in every detail. On my world, medicine focuses on long-term enhancement and prevention. We do preventive medicine too, Dr. Maxwell nodded. But yes, much of our medical science developed from battlefield medicine, fixing injuries quickly under stress. In the next lab, researchers were testing new antibiotics. The aliens watched with fascination as Dr. Maxwell explained the constant race between human medicine and evolving bacteria. Even your smallest life forms are aggressive, Grax noted, his reptilian scales shifting color slightly. Everything on Earth seems to compete rather than cooperate. That's partly true, Dr. Maxwell admitted, but competition drives adaptation. Without these challenges, humans might never have developed our problem-solving abilities. As the tour continued, a scientist in a side lab accidentally knocked over a container. Glass shattered, and a small flame erupted when chemicals mixed with air. Alarms immediately sounded throughout the facility. The human staff responded instantly. Someone grabbed a fire extinguisher while others sealed the room. Dr. Maxwell calmly directed the alien visitors toward emergency exits. Please follow the evacuation protocol, he said firmly. This is not a drill. Most aliens moved quickly, but Tix froze in place, the inner lights of their crystalline body flashing in panic patterns. I cannot move, Tix communicated through the translator. My mobility systems have locked in emergency mode. The fire spread to a nearby shelf of supplies. Smoke began to fill the room. Without hesitation, Dr. Maxwell grabbed a lab coat, wrapped it around his arm, and pushed through the smoke toward Tix. Stay calm, he said, reaching the frozen alien. I'll get you out. Despite the heat and smoke, Dr. Maxwell guided Tix toward the exit. Just as they reached safety, a small explosion sent glass shards flying. One sliced through Tix's protective covering, cracking the alien's crystalline form. In the building's courtyard, as emergency teams contained the fire, Dr. Maxwell examined Tix's injury. The crack was spreading slowly through the crystal structure. This is beyond my expertise, Dr. Maxwell admitted, but I think we can stabilize you. Using supplies from a first aid kit and his knowledge of crystallography, Dr. Maxwell applied a quick hardening compound to stop the crack from spreading. Your solution is unorthodox but effective, Tix said as the compound set. You improvised a treatment for a species you barely understand. Ambassador Larry watched this interaction closely, his skin shifting to a thoughtful blue hue. "Dr. Maxwell, you risk your safety to help ticks. Why?" "It's what we do," Dr. Maxwell said simply, clinging smoke residue from his hands. "In emergency medicine, we have a saying: adapt, improvise, overcome." Later, as their transport vehicle took them back to their quarters, the aliens were unusually quiet. The laboratory incident had shown them something profound about humans, not just their technological ingenuity, but their instinctive response to crisis. The doctor did not hesitate. Grax finally said, even with danger to himself. "And the other humans," added Nix, bobbing slightly in the air. They had practiced routines for emergency, as if they expected disaster. Ambassador Zixleri's skin rippled with new understanding. Because they do expect it. Humans live each day knowing their world might try to kill them. And they've built their entire civilization around being ready when it does. The exchange program moved to California for its next phase. The aliens were staying in a modern hotel near San Francisco, enjoying the mild coastal weather after their previous experiences. On their third day, as the group gathered in the hotel conference room for morning briefing, the floor suddenly trembled. At first, it was just a slight vibration. The aliens looked around in confusion. Then the shaking intensified. Pictures rattled on walls. A vase fell and shattered. "Earthquake," called Jack Peterson, the human student liaison. "Everyone find cover." The humans in the room moved with practiced precision. They ducked under tables, stood in doorways, or braced themselves against load-bearing walls. The aliens froze, unprepared for the ground itself to betray them. Morg stumbled as the floor bucked beneath him. Nix's gravity compensators struggled to adjust, causing him to bob wildly in the air. Prill's crystalline form vibrated dangerously close to her resonant frequency. Jack saw the Aquarian student Bubblex, whose water-filled environmental suit made him especially vulnerable, standing exposed as a light fixture swung precariously above. Without hesitation, Jack rushed forward, grabbed Bubblex, and pulled him under a sturdy table just as the fixture crashed down. The shaking lasted only 28 seconds, but to the aliens, it felt like an eternity. When stillness finally returned, they emerged from their shelters, visibly shaken. "Is everyone all right?" Jack asked, helping Bubblex upright. Ambassador Zixleri's skin had gone completely white with shock. "The ground. It moved. Your planet's crust actually shifted beneath us." "Just a moderate quake," Jack said, checking his phone. "About 5.4 on the Richter scale. The news says the epicenter was offshore." Outside the hotel, car alarms blared. In the distance, a fire truck's siren wailed. The aliens watched in amazement as humans throughout the building and on the streets outside immediately began checking on each other, clearing debris, and assessing damage. "We need to evacuate until structural engineers clear the building," Jack explained, guiding them toward the stairs. "No elevators after an earthquake." As they reached the street, the aliens witnessed something remarkable. Despite the chaos, humans were organizing themselves. Hotel staff directed guests to a safe area. Nearby shop owners checked their storefronts for damage. A woman in nursing scrubs stopped to treat an elderly man's cut arm. "Your species has routines for ground movement," Grax said, his reptilian eyes wide with disbelief. "We have protocols for most disasters," Jack confirmed. "Earthquakes, fires, floods, California gets them all." The group was directed to a nearby park where emergency services had set up a temporary aid station. There they met Olivia Wright, a hospital nurse who was off duty but had immediately reported to help. "This is actually good timing for your studies," Olivia said as she checked Prill's suit for damage. "You're seeing our emergency response system in action." Throughout the park, the aliens observed humans helping each other with remarkable calm. Children were led in games by teachers to keep them occupied. Volunteers distributed water bottles. Someone had even brought a portable radio to share news updates. "Your people are not panicking," Loom observed, his tube-like appendages swaying gently. On my world, such an event would cause mass hysteria. We've learned that panic doesn't help, Olivia explained. Clear thinking saves lives. By evening, their hotel was declared safe, though a few rooms had minor damage. As they returned to the building, they saw repair crews already at work throughout the city, fixing broken windows and clearing fallen debris. That night, Ambassador Zixleri called a meeting of all the alien students. Today we experienced what humans call a natural disaster, he said, his skin now a thoughtful blue. Yet observe how they responded, not with fear or surprise, but with practiced efficiency. They live expecting disaster, Morg added. Their buildings, their emergency systems, even their children are prepared. Nix bobbed in agreement. I now understand something fundamental about humans. They don't just adapt to survive Earth's dangers. They've built their entire civilization, knowing that catastrophe is normal. The aliens looked out the hotel window at the city lights, seeing their host planet with new eyes. Earth wasn't just dangerous. It was unpredictably, constantly dangerous. And humans had evolved not despite these conditions, but because of them. With only 2 weeks left in their exchange program, the alien students gathered to work on their research project. They converted one of the larger rooms at their facility into a study center, with data screens showing their collected observations and findings. We must organize our research for presentation to the Galactic Council, Ambassador Zixleri said, his skin shifting through analytical patterns of blue and green. What have we learned about humans and their relationship to their world? Loom extended one of his fluid-filled appendages toward a screen. I've been analyzing human medical data. Their bodies are remarkably redundant. 2 kidneys when one would suffice, a liver that can regenerate, backup systems throughout their physiology. Their bones constantly rebuild themselves, added Grax, pulling up anatomical diagrams, and their immune systems attack foreign bodies automatically. My species requires conscious activation of our defenses. Prill, now more comfortable in her protective suit, manipulated a display showing human brain scans. Their neural patterns are unlike anything in our database. Humans process threat detection, even while unconscious. The aliens work together, combining their observations from the wilderness trip, the urban experience, the laboratory visit, and the earthquake. Slowly, a complete picture of humanity began to emerge. Consider their evolutionary pathway, Morg said, his multiple eyes focused on different data points simultaneously. Earth has over 8 million species. Of those, thousands evolved as predators. Nix bobbed in agreement, and humans evolved without significant natural weapons. No claws, no poison, minimal strength compared to other Earth predators. Yet they became the apex species, Zixleri noted. How? Grax pointed to human tool use diagrams. Pattern recognition. Their brains developed to spot threats and opportunities with remarkable speed. And they remember patterns across generations, added Loom. Their written language allows them to accumulate knowledge about dangers and solutions. The aliens continued their analysis late into the night. They discovered that Earth's gravity, 1.4 times stronger than the galactic average, had forced humans to develop denser bones and stronger muscles. The planet's oxygen-rich atmosphere, while corrosive to some alien life forms, allowed for efficient energy production in human cells. Most intelligent species in the galaxy evolved on stable, safe worlds, Zixleri said, displaying a chart of member worlds in the Galactic Council. Predictable weather, few predators, stable tectonics. Earth is the opposite, Morg observed. It has killed 99.9% of all species that ever lived here. Prill's crystalline form shimmered as she processed this information. Humans didn't just survive their Deathworld. They were created by it. Each disaster, each predator, each environmental change shaped them. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. That explains their response speed, Nix said finally. Humans react to danger faster than any species I've encountered. And their constant invention, added Loom. They never stop creating new solutions because their world never stops creating new problems. Ambassador Zixlary pulled up video footage from their various experiences on Earth. Look at their social structures, too. Humans instinctively organize during crisis. They protect the young and vulnerable automatically. The aliens worked through the night, compiling their research. By morning, they had reached a conclusion that would change the Galactic Council's understanding of humans forever. We've been approaching this backward, Zixlary said, his skin now pulsing with excitement. We thought Earth was classified as a death world despite humans evolving there. But humans are remarkable because they evolved on a death world. Their creativity, adaptability, and resilience. Mord began. Air survival traits, finished Grax, necessary for any species that could evolve intelligence on such a planet. As dawn broke outside their facility, the alien students prepared their final presentation. They now understood that humans weren't just surviving on Earth. They were its children, shaped by its dangers, forged in its challenges, and uniquely equipped to thrive in conditions that would kill most other intelligent species in the galaxy. The final day of the exchange program arrived. The United Nations headquarters in New York was chosen for the graduation ceremony. Representatives from countries around the world gathered in the General Assembly Hall. The alien students stood on stage, their environmental suits polished for the formal occasion. Secretary Frank Nelson of the UN welcomed everyone with a warm smile. He was an older man with silver hair and kind eyes that held wisdom from years of diplomatic service. Today marks a historic moment in human and galactic relations, he said. Our visitors have studied our world for 3 months. Now they will share what they've learned. Ambassador Zixlary stepped forward, his skin shifting through formal colors of blue and gold. People of Earth, we came here to study your planet, classified in galactic terms as a Class 9 death world. What we discovered changed our understanding not just of Earth, but of humanity itself. Each alien student presented a portion of their findings. Nix floated forward first, his spherical body glowing softly. Earth's gravity is 1.4 times the galactic average. This forced human evolution towards stronger muscles and denser bones than most species develop. Grax followed, his reptilian form moving with careful dignity. Your atmosphere contains oxygen levels that would be considered dangerously combustible on most worlds. Yet this allowed your bodies to generate energy efficiently, powering your remarkable brains. Prill, now comfortable enough to remove parts of her protective covering, displayed the crystalline patterns of her thoughts. Human neural pathways prioritize threat detection and pattern recognition. Your brains evolved to spot danger instantly, a necessary survival trait in your environment. Loom's fluid-filled tubes rippled as he addressed the assembly. Most intelligent species in the galaxy evolved on stable, peaceful worlds. Threats were rare, allowing for gradual development. Earth never gave humans that luxury. Morg's multiple eyes focused on different sections of the audience simultaneously. Your biological competitors, what you call predators, numbered in the thousands. Most galactic species faced fewer than 10 significant predator species during their evolution. One by one, the alien students shared their observations about Earth's tectonic instability, extreme weather patterns, microbial threats, and seasonal changes. The human audience listened with growing wonder, seeing their familiar world through new eyes. Finally, Ambassador Zixlary concluded their presentation. Humans are not merely survivors of a death world. You are its children. Every cell in your bodies, every instinct in your minds was shaped by Earth's dangers. What we consider extraordinary about humans, your adaptability, your creativity, your resilience. These are survival traits, necessary for any species that could achieve intelligence on such a planet. The hall fell silent as humans processed this perspective. Secretary Nelson finally spoke. And how does this change your view of humanity's place in the galactic community? Zixlary's skin shifted to a solemn purple. It changes everything. Most species fear change and avoid risk. Humans embrace both. Where we see danger, you see opportunity. The very traits that helped you survive Earth make you uniquely valuable to the galaxy. With formal ceremony, Secretary Nelson accepted an official invitation for Earth to join the Galactic Council. The human audience applauded as documents were signed and hands were shaken, or appropriate appendages touched in alien greeting customs. As the ceremony concluded, Zixlary approached Dr. Carter and Lieutenant Monroe, who had welcomed them on their first day. "We have a proposal," Zixlary said. "A new exchange program, sending human students to study on our worlds." Dr. Carter raised his eyebrows. "You're willing to host humans on your planets?" With some anxiety, Zixlary admitted, his skin rippling with humor. "But we believe it will benefit both sides, though we must warn our people that humans move quickly, ask many questions, and have an unsettling tendency to touch everything." Lieutenant Monroe laughed. "That's a fair assessment." As the alien students prepared to board their ship, they took one last look at the Earth rising above the New York skyline. They had come to study a Deathworld and discovered something unexpected. A species that didn't merely survive danger but was forged by it, stronger and more adaptable than any they had encountered before. The galaxy would never be the same after meeting Earth's children.